development is really just about understanding how to build effective relationships. I've written a lot of posts and content, and I feel like I could replace the word sales in half the things I write, but I really think it comes down to, do you know how to communicate and build effective relationships?
What's going on, everybody? It's Morgan J. Ingram here, host of the SDR Chronicles, bringing you motivational tactics and tips for your sales development journey, your sales journey, and also for your entrepreneurial journey as we go into the epicenter of what I believe of your career and your life is sales development. I believe every single person uses it on a daily basis, whether you realize it or not. So without any further ado, I have one of my best friends from college, still a homie to this day, Bryan, who's an unconventional guest to the SDR Chronicles podcast. And the reason I'm bringing him on here is because he is a person that is a foundational story of sales development, and he continuously does it on a daily basis and has a ton of success stories of just really getting after it. And I believe that's really the mindset of this show. And what we're actually going to talk about is how to keep your psyche steady during your journey. Because I think a lot of times when you're trying to be super successful, a lot of things can hinder that. Like your psyche can be off. You start having, less relationships. Your health can come into play. So Bryan has gone through a lot of different things from what I know, and I definitely want to take a deep dive into that so you guys can see outside of the realm of what it really means to be an entrepreneur and really do your own thing. So without any further ado, Bryan, introduce yourself of all the amazing stuff that you're doing right now, and excited for this topic.
Morgan, thanks for having me on the show. I've enjoyed watching you evolve over the last 3 years doing videos. It's come a super long way. So thanks for having me. Right now, I'm running all the marketing for the book coming out in June by Allen Gannett called The Creative Curve. It's really about how to develop the right idea at the right time. And it was a really empowering message for me because I love to see people go after their dreams and really kind of reach their entrepreneurial success. And, I felt if I could do a good job helping Allen, that more people could be touched by the message and go out and pursue things they love to do. Before this, I was running the Kairos Society's community, which, focuses the next, generation on solving the world's biggest problems. And before that, I was running my own startup called Wish Dish, which was a very emotional community of people and giving them a voice to help them share personal stories. So really everything my work comes down to is really kind of spreading authentic messages, building relationships, and giving people a voice. And, that kind of sums up everything I've done all in one. So.
Yeah. So Bryan gets after it. So I first want to talk about, what does sales development mean for you? Being outside of the tech is what most people from this audience is from, but what does it really stand for at the end of the day for yourself? And when did you really see that you were using certain skills in college, when we first met?
Yeah, sales development is really just about understanding how to build effective relationships. I've written a lot of posts and content, and I feel like I could replace the word sales in half the things I write, but I really think it comes down to, do you know how to communicate and build effective relationships? In college, I developed a program for the Atlanta Hawks and the Atlanta Braves that marketed a college ambassador program to 8 universities and over 300 student organizations. And I wasn't really in the organizations that we were marketing to, but I had to understand how to break through to the student leaders, have them trust and respect me, and then work with the Hawks and the Braves on the other side and make them trust the program that we were putting in place. And it was really about, I had to build the relationships kind of at my level, kind of as a college student, but then I had to build my relationships professionally. And so there's a lot of sales development work that kind of went into place and the crucial relationships that needed to be made for the program to be successful. And it did over $100,000 in sales in the first year. And but it was 8 months of foundation building, and that was all kind of the marketing and sales development that went on behind the scenes.
Yeah, and Bryan, talk a little bit more about when you were doing the program and you ended up doing actually more. You did some stuff with the Braves, you were doing stuff with the Wish Dish, and you had to get people to write for that Wish Dish platform, and also you had to get a meeting with the Braves. How did you go about getting even those conversations and getting people to know who you even were?
Sure. So at the professional level, right, when you're a college student, you really need to get people to trust and respect you.
Yeah.
And that's hard to get people to take you seriously when they think you're just kind of waking up at 11:30 hungover. But, I think you and I kind of treated the college arena a little differently, where we kind of started earlier. So because I had done 4 to 5 internships in college, just getting my hands super dirty, I kind of was able to leverage those relationships, and people like trusted, like put their name on the line for me to introduce me to organizations I wanted to get through. And then once I was in touch with the organizations, I always had to think about, okay, well, who am I speaking with? What are they interested in? Like, how do I give value to them first? Because at the end of the day, if you're going to make an ask, you need to like follow up with something in return or before you make that ask. So, make it easier on yourself to get through that door. So, from a professional standpoint, it was, understanding the end goals, being very strategic with communication and kind of follow up and simple things like thank you notes, and then developing a really good product that, they saw value in. And at the time, those teams didn't really understand how to market to college students. Yet there were over, I think, 400,000 in their own backyard from all my data. From a wish dish standpoint, it was, okay, I went through a really hard time when I was in college. I had a story that it wasn't so much about the story, but it was about expressing that to, help other people realize they weren't alone.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was dealing with people more at like my age level who had went through things, but I had to make them feel safe and secure in themselves to know like this platform was for them. And while it hasn't reached its full potential and it's been on hold for about a year, it really, we had about 800 different people share very, very personal stories. And it comes down to the same thing. It's about being able to build trust, communicate effectively, and share why you're doing what you're doing.
Of course. Yeah. And those are really key components. And you mentioned something I want to take a little bit deeper dive into. You wrote thank you notes. What was your mindset behind writing those thank you notes? And then talk about a little bit about the responses you got because you wrote those notes.
Yeah. So last year, here's an example. I do this with every meeting, but last year before Christmas, I went through all the contacts that helped me over the last 2 or 3 years. And I wrote personalized handwritten thank you notes to all of them and asked for their addresses. I think I sent over like 78 thank you notes. Mm-hmm. Now, there's 2 things to that. One, it's like no one writes thank you notes anymore. No. So it's easy to stand out. And then 2, it's like I personalized to each one, not just a general note, but like explaining how each person helped me. And sure, it might have taken a little more time, but then if you even want to go from like a brand standpoint, it builds equity with people if you go above and beyond in the relationship. Yeah. And if you do that, like if you're in a sales role, right, and people you work with, like it goes even further because then that might turn into numbers that they're trying to hit at the end of the year. So it's been kind of something I've done always throughout my life, and writing has just always been who I am. So it's just a great brand tool that I use, but I think it works for everyone if done correctly.
Yeah, it's all about doing the extra things that you have to do at the end of the day in order to really get success in return. And I do believe that is something that you have to pay attention to, especially in your sales role or whatever role that you're really into that has some type of quota or has some type of goal that you're reaching towards. So the topic is talking about Psyche. We had a conversation about this just 3 days ago and like really how this was, we go through this all the time. Talk about how you strive for success and give us an example of when it actually caught up to you in your life and actually hindered you.
Yeah, that's great. So I think for driven professionals, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're 25-year-old hustler in a sales role or just someone striving to do great things and kind of keep up with kind of your dreams, it's so easy to get caught up in that journey alone and get tunnel vision. And like tunnel vision is a strength and a weakness. And it's a weakness if you're not self-aware. So for me recently, it's been a crazy year and change of roles and opportunities, but I caught myself this fall where I wasn't self-aware of a lot of things going around me personally. Like I had to move in a year. I switched jobs. I've been dating a girl, but I was so focused professionally, and I was struggling in all the other areas of my life on a personal level, because I was so focused and heads down professionally. And that problem also happened to me 3 years ago in a much worse way, because I wasn't really aware of it, and it kept happening over and over. So, it's so easy for us to just lose sight of the foundational things we need to succeed at on a personal level if we ever want to reach the professional success that we desire.
And so how do you go about making sure you don't fall into that hole? Like anyone who is like so driven, getting after it, and then they realize they're not self-aware, and then they realize, oh, everything is actually falling down on me, and then like I really don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to putting a set of systems in place for your life. Like the smallest things, such as paying my credit card bill twice a month, freaked me out, because it was like, I have to go to my things, I got to log in, I got to pay it, because I don't like doing auto pay.
Yeah.
Like going to the grocery store freaked me out, because it's just like, that's another hour that I could be working, right? So instead, I've had to rechannel as and like, no, these are like, I got to take care of myself domestically. I got to take care of myself from a health standpoint, 3 or 4 times a week. I got to like do all the little things personally, because I know they're all foundational things for me to succeed professionally. Or if that's seeing my girlfriend once or twice a week and scheduling time out to like be fully present. And so what I think, to answer your question, is like this entire year, 2017, has been like putting systems in place in my life to set myself up for the future. And I've never done that before. And it's paid dividends in an incredible way.
Yeah. And that is super critical. Bryan said there is talking about systems and putting them in play to make sure that things aren't going crazy. Because I actually feel, Bryan, the same way. And everyone's listening that's in sales or SDRs or even entrepreneurs. When you are locked in and you're like, I'm trying to hit my goals, every little thing that's not towards that goals, you freak out. Like me going to eat freaks me out, because I'm like, I could be doing something for an hour, but I'm eating, and I feel like eating's a waste of time. Like, and it's like little things like that. So tell me how you built your structure to make sure that you weren't freaking out and within all the activities and the stuff that you're doing now.
Yeah. So at first, like, I had to literally write a calendar out every single week. Then I tried to plan out like my personal life to the T. But then, because I had planned everything professionally, I was like planning my personal and professional, and I was just falling on my face because it just felt like too much structure.
Yeah, for sure.
And like I'm someone who thrives in like a unstructured environment, but like putting in my own structure in place, if that makes sense. So then I had to go to like, okay, I'm only going to structure my professional life from a timing standpoint. But then like my personal life, there's a set of things that I need to do every week and a set of things that I need to do every month. And I have a calendar for that where I'm checking kind of once or twice a week, just making sure I'm on top of those things. Because if I don't stay on top of those things, I let things pile up. It was like homework in college. If you didn't do it, it piled up and it became super overwhelming. So for me, it's like, how do you just knock out the little things every week? And it makes you kind of really be efficient and prioritize your time.
Yeah. So those are proficient steps, and those are really a guideline of how to really make it happen right there. But talk about the time, because I know I got burnt out one time, and that was terrible, but I know you did too. So tell me the time you got burned out, and then how did you come back stronger to make sure that you didn't go in that same burnout phase?
Yeah, I mean, it first started happening in college. I was getting sick like every 2 months, and I was like burnt out for a week at a time, and I was sleeping 13, 14 hours a day. And I hit like rock bottom mentally and, all the above. And I went to the lengths of getting help and seeing a therapist or a performance coach, more or less. And really, he kind of helped make me really self-aware of all the areas where, I need to like not repeat, or areas I need to repeat. And so, that was like a 5-month process in itself. And then, just working with him once a month is kind of like my, it's what saves me. But I think it's different for everyone. It's just like knowing, like, if you're starting to notice a lot of the trends and like you burning out or getting super tired or, not sleeping, it's like being truly self-aware of like what you do need to do to stay on top of it. But there's no crystal ball for how to do it for everyone. I think it's just what's unique to you.
Yeah, there's definitely not a crystal ball, or we all would be good, right?
Right.
We all would be good. So it really does come down to, how do you measure your psyche and how does that really work? And I think that the psyche of you being super successful can actually hinder you from relationships and being so locked in. And I think that sometimes because someone is so moving forward, that's in a sales mission or getting after it, doesn't really take the time to figure out what are my times to relax. Like what does that even mean to relax? Right. I feel like a lot of people face that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to that point, Morgan, I mean, I listened to a podcast with Scooter Braun on my car ride home from DC the other night. And I've become really interested in him because his job is really about helping people reach their full potential. And, you know, he said that like, he needs to understand what his goalposts of success are, because, you know, if you're driven, it's like, it's never an issue of you accomplishing things. You get that high off of it. It's what keeps you going, but it's knowing where those yards are, those goalposts are, where, you know, like you need to take a step back and kind of let it soak in, and being like extremely specific about what success is for you professionally. I think can really help. And that's something I've never really defined until this year. And so like with each project, with each thing you're working on, like what does success truly look like? Because it's always easy to go another 10 miles with whatever you're doing. But, you know, if you have a reason to be satisfied and feel successful because you clearly define that from the beginning, I think you're able to avoid burnout and kind of pitfalls earlier on, kind of being self-aware of what that looks like.
So what would you say the number one pitfall is for people that just have a really good mindset and they want to succeed, but they end up faltering? Like, what is that pitfall?
I mean, I'm guilty of this too. I think it's just lack of focus. I think there's people who are driven, they see opportunity everywhere. It's like a white blank canvas, and you can draw in whatever vision you want.
Yeah.
But then sometimes it's easy. It's like, okay, you draw one vision, then you get another vision. And so then I think it really just comes down to like, what's this all leading towards? And if you can be truly clear about like this end goal and mission and kind of what fits in that line, or those kind of like what I would call basketball court lines, like what are the limits to things that you'll only do? You know, that's good. But I mean, young people, it's easy to be so ambitious and see everything as opportunity. And that was me in college and probably my first year out. I thought I could do everything. And I got to a point where it's just, it wasn't sustainable. And so I really had to learn how to focus, which is still we're learning today. So.
Yeah, it's definitely an ongoing learning process to realize like, okay, like I need to calm down here and I need to do things better this way. And like, these are things that I need to look forward to make sure I avoid the next time that I try to do this activity. And I think that's super important for everyone across the board to understand. But you said that you now are understanding your psyche, you're in your journey, you're starting to really put the pieces together. What was that for you? Was it a person? Was it an exercise that you did by yourself? Was it writing down your strengths and weaknesses?
I mean, look, I think it was a combination of a lot of things. I mean, first, like I've been journaling every night. I just write down a recap of my day. My dad told me a quote. He said, just focus on doing one day at a time really well. And that sounds so simple, but like it's just stuck with me since he told me a month ago when I was really struggling. I would say my girlfriend, like, you know, I think people look at relationships as something that takes away from their life. And I think like she's really helped add to my life. It's helped me discharge and unplug and experience life and appreciate things in a way I never have. And people like you and me who, when we don't have that, we use that extra time to just keep going. And that's when we hit burnout. I haven't been sick for 8 months, and I would probably say she's the reason why. I would say kind of health. It's being very serious about being disciplined and staying healthy, what you eat, when you sleep, when you work out. So I think it wasn't just one thing. I think it was a combination of me saying, I can't sustain this life I've been living the last 5 years.
Right.
I might be accomplishing a lot, but like, is it worth it if I'm 50, 60 years old and I'm just an old, rich guy with all these achievements, and then poor health, and I have no family and kids? Like, to me, is that like a life worth living? And I don't think so. I think the life worth living is like being able to go after your dreams, but have like personal success as well with a family or with whatever that means to you. And I think once I got really clear on what that looked like personally and professionally, like I could start seeing how more pieces kind of fit together. And I think that's why people should know like what they are chasing, not just chasing things to chase things.
Yeah, no. And yeah, we've had this conversation. You mentioned you don't have all these personal achievements, and it's like when you do have the psyche of like, I want to get after it. I want these goals. I want to do this. You do get you get caught up in it, and you have to make sacrifices. And there's certain people that you may not see anymore. There's maybe certain friends that may drop out. There may be times where you're in a conversation and all you can think about is like the thing I need to do to be more successful that day tomorrow, and to actually have like a real conversation. I feel like that's one thing that I definitely struggle with a lot, is because I get so caught up in all the things that I need to do that I forget sometimes that I'm like involved in, and like I'm not in the moment. I'm like so far off.
Right. Yeah. What have you done to work on that?
I still struggle with it. I think the biggest thing for me is I have to have a switch, and I have to tell myself that like, hey, when I go into this, I need to stop thinking about these things, and I try to put myself in like a different situation. If that makes any sense whatsoever, it's like I have to just look at myself in the mirror and be like, we're going into the situation, shut off everything you're thinking about and just shut it down. And I'm a all in, all out person, and I have to just shut down all my ambitious talk and the stuff that I'm going to do, because if I still have that motor running, then I go into that with the motor running, and I don't really have the genuine conversations, and I don't have the genuine relationships that I want. And I really feel like that psyche can sometimes be hindering if you're not allowing yourself to have those breaks and those escapisms from time to time, which is something that like I've been on the go for so long that I realize that those escapisms are what make me get back down to earth and not be in this crazy space that I normally am in.
Yeah, that's great. No, it's really good. I think to add to that, I work with a performance coach, and he really helps me just kind of stay in line mentally. And I also just achieve the things I want to achieve personally and professionally. And he said, focus 90% of your day on the day, 5% of the day on the future, and 5% of the day on the past. And like, I've never sustained this level of being able to be present in the last like month, since like we kind of I've just used kind of a few simple lines just to mental check-ins. Because you're right. It's like, it's so easy to go from 0 to 100 professionally, and then when you need to shut off personally, it's like, if you bring that kind of energy into like your personal life, it can really screw things up for you.
100%.
So, it's really about the awareness, which is extremely hard.
Yeah, I think self-awareness is probably one of the hardest things of all time, because it's something that you're self-aware
Morgan,
about.
let me ask you this. Where is the biggest place you think you're struggling in your life personally because you're spending too much time professionally?
That's a deep question, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Your LinkedIn audience wants to hear this.
The tides have turned. Oh my goodness. All right. So what's something basically professionally that is
what you struggled with the most personally because you're putting too much time in your professional life?
Okay. So the thing I struggle with the most personally is keeping consistent relationships overall, like across the board, because I am so locked in professionally on what I need to do. I will be more hedged on that than anything else. And then I might drop out on relationships. So one of my goals for this year is as I came in this year and I was like, hey, I need to be more focused on relationships this year and actually take the time to go meet with someone, go do a phone call and talk to my parents and like talk to my brothers. Because in 2016, I didn't care about anything. You didn't tell me anything. All I focused on my career. I barely hung out with people. Like if you try to hit me up, I would ignore you. So this year has been building those relationships, and I have seen definitely the returns on that. I feel like I have a lot more closer friends. I feel like we talk a lot more now this year than I did last year, maybe 2015 or 2014. And because I made that intentional goal for myself, because my psyche of accomplishments is so ingrained. And I feel like sometimes I have the too much of a Gary V mindset where it's like, forget everybody else. I'm going to do my thing. And like, that's it. And I sometimes take that way too much to heart, where I would neglect certain people. But yes, that is something that I struggle with a lot, is making sure those relationships stay strong and taking the time to actually connect with those people and like really connect with them. Not just like, oh, I'm here hanging out with you guys and I'm on my phone the entire time checking email. It's like I'm actually here and I'm engaged and I'm having real conversations for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even that's still hard to do, right? And I've had to limit probably the friends I probably had to like let some relationships go, and that's not intentional. It's because it comes down to focus, and you want to surround yourself with great people. So there's certain people that it's like, okay, well, I want to ensure I keep the relationship there, but then there's sometimes other people. It's like I just don't have like the time to give that I used to, and like that's not because I don't or support them or appreciate them or like
Right.
want them to succeed. It's just or hang out with them. It's just like, is my 2 or 3 hours of ROI better spent with them, or is it better spent focused on something like my health or focused on like cleaning like things so I'm mentally sound to achieve more things professionally? Because it just comes down to being efficient with time, and it's not saying that you shouldn't make time for important people, which you should. I think it's just like really knowing like who those people are, because I think it's the older you get, if you can have 5 incredible relationships, I think you're very lucky.
Yeah, I think that it does come on that 5 to 8, maybe 5 to 10 relationships that you really invest into, especially when you get to a mindset of like, I got a lot of things on my plate and there's a lot going on. Each second is very critical. And that's why I definitely struggled with that, because I saw that time as a waste because I had to go grow my career and I had to do certain things. So, but I think that psyche can, like I said, that because it is seen as like, oh, that's an awesome psyche to want to be successful, it can ultimately hinder a lot of people because you're so focused on certain things that you live in a different space. You almost live in a different world. And that in itself is unhealthy to a large degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So even further talking about psyche and different things, how do you feel it's been different for you ever since you started the Wish Dish? So back in college when I knew you, and now that you're working with Allen and on this book.
Yeah. So when I started Wish Dish in college, I remember my senior year last semester was a blur. I blew off all my classes. I skipped more classes in my senior year than
you skipped a lot of classes, dude.
then combined my first 3.5 years of school. But that's because like I was so focused. I was like, this is the next Facebook, and I was like, I'm gonna get the world to be on this platform, and like that was great. And I learned so much, and I took on so much all at once. I just jumped in the deep end, and I put all my savings into it. I forgot about my health, forgot about my friends. It was a very like lonely ride. I struggled a lot internally. I burned out a lot. But I changed and I impacted like probably thousands of lives. And it wasn't me alone. There was a lot of incredible people behind it. But the vision carried it, and that's what got me through all the hardship. So to transition to like where I am now and like what I was doing last year with Kairos, I think I had this moment with Wish Dish where it was like, I could lead this in a lot faster and a lot better, but I need some experience. I need to go learn under some really smart people and surround myself with like the right people and gain the right skill sets. Kairos was that one of those opportunities for me, learning how to build a global community from scratch, and those guys a lot. Working under someone like Allen, I mean, look, he's by far the most impressive and brilliant individual I think I've ever met. What he's done at 26 years old, and his precision and ability for action to make things happen and do things in such a genuine and authentic way is unbelievable. And it's teaching me a whole new skill set of really like what is marketing. Like I've known what it is, but like to know from someone who's so experienced and has such a rich and deep understanding and like helping me learn that to help him be successful is like, it's super rewarding because he's helping me, but like I want to help him knock this book out of the park and change thousands and thousands of lives. So, and I think both can be done.
That's really awesome. And, as we wrap this whole thing up, what is one thing that's helped you the most when it comes to mentors? I feel like you've had a lot of mentors across your journey and they helped your psyche. And a lot of people listening that are in sales are always looking for mentors. How did you find yours and how they helped you with your mindset along the way?
Yeah, it's good. I think one, it's just like, just ask. I think I have a unique ability to kind of see into people and see who's genuine.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certain people at an older level I want into my life. And then there's certain people like who serve different purposes in my life at certain times. Like the mentors I have 2 or 3 years ago are people I still consider mentors, but like with where I am in my life now, I might be looking for different people for different directions. I think it's really about like where you are and where you want to go, and identifying the people who are in those places, understanding the same system for how to reach out to them, and then how to help them, and then have them help you. I look at everything, even from a mentor level, it's like give and take. Like all my mentors that help me with Wish Dish, one's coming out with a book, right? It's like Tommy. It's like, okay, I'll be happy to share with him anything. Jason Belzer, like he was huge helping me. Yeah, I've helped him like find writers for his platform and for Athletic Director U. Like I firmly believe it's like people are going to spend hours helping you. You got to find a way to, give back. So it's really just comes down to asking and being able to identify people you really can't connect with. You have more rich experience where you don't.
Yeah.
And being vulnerable, you got to be vulnerable. People don't know how to help you if you don't tell them.
Yeah, you definitely have to be vulnerable throughout the process. And, with that, Bryan, thank you so much for hopping on the SDR Chronicles and providing that insight across the board. And the one question I ask every single person that comes on this show. So SDR, Sales Development Representative, you know what that means. We've talked about it before. You're not within the industry, but you understand sales. What is the number one piece of advice that you give to these people that are entering into these new roles?
I think there's a lot of people who have the title SDR. You are one of them, Morgan. And you found a way to create your own niche within that role. And you developed the whole platform and video series around it.
Mm-hmm.
And people look for you in the SDR role for guidance. So, something when I was in sports, someone told me was create your own niche. And, doing the Hawks Embrace programs was my way to do that. So I think if, being in that role, everyone's going after certain numbers and hustle metrics and, all the things you need to be successful. But it's like, how do you kind of step outside that box that everyone else is living in and do things just a little differently? Is that create your own video series? Is that blog? Is that, is that finding a new opportunity within and starting a new concept within an organization?
Yeah.
Whatever that means to you, I think it's like, if you want to like separate and be thought of as like a leader within what you're doing, I think it's like, you got to do things differently and kind of push uphill until you're heard. And you've done that in your show. SDR is a beautiful example, and it gets a ton of engagement, and there's a reason why. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. Well, Bryan, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. As I always say, guys, keep dialing, and I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you. You're the best.